Hello, I'm Dan Juday. I'm new to Shop Irish Writers. I posted my first poem the same week that you were celebrating your first anniversary. It was a very pleasant experience in that I had 4 responses within the first day. People saying they enjoyed the poem, encouraging me to continue writing, to post more. And I've been following the poetry and other advice that's on there with great relish myself. So I've decided to post again. I wanted to read a short clip from my recently published memoir, Waltzing a Two-Step, Reckoning Family, Faith, and Self. It's published in the U.S. by Calling Card Books. You can learn more about them on their website, callingcardbooks.com. And if you go to callingcardbooks.com/Dan Juday, you can learn about me and the book. It's a long one, but I wanted to give you a little taste of it. So I've selected a short clip from it. It needs a little setup. We lived out in the country, and there was a rest park next to our house. Truckers used to come and stop there, and there was an outdoor toilet. Sometimes they'd leave things behind, and one day somebody left a pornographic magazine behind on the picnic table. I found it and looked at it and was a little confused by it. I thought about it for a while, and then I just threw it away. But I went home that night and I started feeling guilty about having seen something I don't think I was supposed to see. The guilt ate at me for a little bit. Here's where I'll go to the book. A Catholic childhood has a built-in mechanism for dealing with self-recrimination, the confessional. Confession was not on offer during the school week. Each day began with early Mass, followed by a cold breakfast, then classes framed by lunch hour and recess, and ended with the scramble to get transportation home. This scheduling didn't allow for time in a confessional queue. Weekend arrangements had to be made for that. Confessions were heard from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays, presumably to ensure cleansed souls for Sunday communion. The assumption at home was that we stood in regular need of it. The weekend shopping or a deferred errand would be scheduled to allow a Saturday evening trip to town and a visit to an eerily empty church whose back pews had held a handful of sinners waiting to be shriven. I sought out confession a few weeks after the bare-breasted lady began haunting my conscience. The confessional box had all the appeal of a doctor's syringe, but I bore both with the unquestioned confidence in their efficacy. Sometimes there would be a visiting priest to hear confessions, but most often it was Father Sheets. I knew his voice, of course. Father Sheets would have known my voice as well. But I was focused more on the unworthiness I was about to name than on what the priest might already know. Inside the booth, I took assurance from the lattice-like screen that separated us, each in his own chamber. A further gesture towards anonymity was a linen cloth pinned against that lattice. I stared at it in my terror. I can see it still. I thought of it as a handkerchief because it was an era when women could not enter a church with their heads uncovered. At the same time, they were increasingly foregoing hats and headscarves for all but formal occasions or inclement weather. A handkerchief secured with a bobby pin technically complied with church protocol, and if push came to shove, even a Kleenex, similarly pinned, met the basic requirement. The thinnest tissue separating a woman's hair from God's and the public's prying eyes would suffice, just as the thin linen cloth between my abject sinfulness and Father Sheets' omniscience made the confessional bearable. The promise was that I would be heard and not seen. Ironically, this was my grandmother's dictum for a child's table manners, turned on its head. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was 3 weeks ago. At some point, I worked up the nerve to tell Father Sheets about the naked lady. He had the patience, and since he knew me, the perspective to ask how I came across it. I found it on a picnic table at the park. And were you curious? Yes, Father. A sin is something you know is wrong, something you know to be wrong, but you go ahead and do it anyway because you want to. Did you want to sin? No, Father. Then you have not sinned. This was a novel and potentially quite useful formula. It brought immediate relief. Nothing can be more exculpatory than to have your parish priest tell you that you haven't sinned. Of course I hadn't. What was I thinking? And how might this be applied further down the road? What Father Sheets offered in his line of reasoning, if looked at slightly askance and with one eye, was a Jesuitical argument on the nature of sin that afforded emotional distance from the act itself, as the Catechism called it. It didn't exempt so much as give breathing room for the anxiety I often brought to moral questions. There were moral questions everywhere. So if you're still listening, thank you for listening to that excerpt from my book. I wrote an article about the process of writing the book, its inspiration, and the publishing process. It appeared on the online magazine, writing.ie. Again, my name is Dan Juday, and you can search for it on that. I hope that the article offers you something. The book is available on amazon.co.uk. It's also available on Book Depository. And I'm doing everything that I can to make it available in retail shops here in Ireland. If you're interested in getting a copy of the book, it would be great if you just go into your local bookshop and ask them to order it. Maybe that's how we all get our books into the retail shops. Thanks very much. You'll hear more from me later. Bye-bye.